Hi, Mrs. Jacoby. This is Emily Oatman. I'm going to do my presentation on using play therapy to help deaf children. The first part that I wanted to talk about when regarding my paper is the idea of improving the social and communicational skills of deaf children. In a paper written by Baramani, he discusses this exact thing by saying that play therapy is an effective way to improve the social and communicational skills of deaf children. This is very important because a lot of deaf children do not have the ability to communicate with anyone outside of those who know sign language. It is also very difficult for them because when you're talking about being social, if they have hearing parents, sometimes those hearing parents don't want to communicate with them either, or just do not have the time to learn sign language to be able to communicate with them. The second topic that I wanted to talk about was the ability to adjust the equipment for play therapy so that it helps those that are deaf. There have to be some adjustments made to not only some of the equipment, but also to the way of thinking that helping professionals use when working with the children. Some of the equipment, such as musical instruments, have to be adjusted so that it's more based on the vibrations as opposed to the sound, so that it's easier for deaf children to understand what is happening. It is also very important that the helping professional shifts their opinions and the way that they work with the child so that they're not assuming that they are a hearing child and have the same experiences as those that are hearing. A lot of deaf children have to deal with a lot more prejudice and trauma regarding the fact that they are deaf, so they will have a lot different experiences than those that are actually hearing. Another way to adjust the equipment is to use a lot more color in the equipment or in the surrounding areas, because color is a very good thing for deaf children to understand what is going on. The more color they use, the brighter things seem to deaf children, and the easier it is for them to comprehend what is going on. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the use of sand trays. In her article regarding the use of this sand tray technique, Beth Bettman not only talks about the use of how the technique works with hearing children, but also how it works with deaf children. She discusses one case where it's a hearing child that uses this technique and how it helps them, and then she discusses how with a deaf child that she used the same technique and it did almost the same thing, because in that aspect, no talking is really required. They can just express their emotions and what's happening in their life through what's happening in the sand tray, and it's a very visual activity instead of being an activity that requires a lot of hearing and a lot of speaking. In this article, she also discusses the idea of holding, in which the helping professional holds back a little bit and allows the child to completely finish and then approaches with care. And this is something else that is very important when working with deaf children, because a lot of times an adult that may not speak their language or is not deaf is an adult that they aren't really comfortable with. So being able to come in slowly or back up away a little bit and let them work is very important. The final, and in my opinion, the most important thing that I discussed in this paper is the use of American Sign Language. Without this skill in particular, a helping professional will have a much more difficult time being able to help a deaf child, and learning sign language should be a priority when doing so. In my opinion, it is very difficult for a helping professional to work with a deaf child if they do not know sign language. Play therapy is a very connection-based type of therapy. You have to have a connection with the child in order to be able to work with them and work through the emotions. And if all of the speaking and all of the communication is going through an interpreter, that personal connection is kind of lost between the child and the helping professional. So it is very important that the helping professional know American Sign Language before taking on a deaf child to help in play therapy.